today has a plan. Today has a bit of a horse show, going to walk around, check out kind of plan. So earlier workout first. So I'm going to flip it, do a night session of cardio, and then a morning workout, which I used to be a little more of a hater of. Like in my mind, I used to think like, oh, well, I've got to work out at like 8 o'clock at night once I've eaten all of my food for the day, because then I'm actually like, fully fed, super carved up. Like that's when I got to work out. And I don't think that's a bad approach. Like I think that's still, decently accurate, but I don't think it's as important as I may have made it out to be, So especially, well, there's a little bit of a caveat to that too. Bulked and cut kind of change the situation, So when I'm bulked up and I'm trying to keep eating and I'm trying to really maximize everything I can in order to, continue to grow, well, then that's when I'm probably going to do later workouts, totally full of food, go crazy. But right now that I'm trying to diet down, it's not cool to say, but maintenance is much easier than actual, further growth. To stay as big as I am now and maintain that size while I get leaner, I don't have to bench 4 plates. You never do, actually. That's just kind of for fun. But I don't have to completely wreck myself every training session, at least to a certain point, because it's like, what am I doing? All I need to do is maintain my size and strength that I already have. And to do that doesn't necessarily require that the workout has me super fully carved up late at night, like having digested everything. It's just not part of the deal, So a morning workout ends up working just as well, at least as far as I can tell. And, once I get further into the diet and I actually have to start, kind of digging, well then, I know the last few weeks of prep earlier in February, or I guess February in January, I was doing morning workouts just because I'd be almost more tired as the day went on. And it's not like I was eating a ton of food, so I'd be extra carbed up and full anyway. So it's like, what am I doing? Let's just get straight to the workout in the morning when I'm fresh, make this shit happen, and then go for it. So that's where I think I was a little bit more close-minded with the topic of like, what times should you work out? Because you know what? What's a good time to work out? Anytime you are working out, right? Whether it has to be like a 5 a.m., like, crack of dawn, you're up, hit it, and then do the rest of your day after. Or if you're a little bit more, my side of things, and you want to do your day first and then basically end it on a W with a lift, And some days, the last time I did a morning workout, I could tell it was almost 5 o'clock, and I kind of had that sort of feeling of like, all right, let's get this shit. But the workout was already over. There was nothing to get. It was already done. I've already done it. So sometimes it's a little bit of kind of a weird feeling. But either way, as long as you're hitting it consistently with effort, you almost can't go wrong. Like if someone objectively came into the gym and had a mindset of, okay, I'm gonna go hard like a beast for an hour. No program, no plan, no anything. He's not even gonna do chest. He's gonna do everything. He's gonna come in and do like some leg extensions. It's like a 3-day-a-week full body kind of guy or something. And he actually went after it, like, not just, yeah, I got after it today, but the guy was lying. Like, he really did it. Well, then guess what? That guy's gonna make gains too. Because it's not exclusive to someone who's doing it, quote unquote, right or wrong. I think gains are exclusively reserved for those who actually bring in, put in effort. And the main point of that is they put in effort when you don't need to, right? It's kind of sneaky. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to do anything, but you don't have to go work out. You don't have to count your calories. You don't have to do any of this stuff. It's purely out of your own enjoyment because you want to do it. It's take the average. Maybe I'm being mean when I say average, but imagine someone who doesn't really do much. A guy where he just hangs out, watches TV, plays on his phone. We all do that anyway. But really doesn't like, what, when was the last time you challenged yourself is what I'm kind of getting after. Because I feel like every workout I get to do that. Even though I've done now 2 bodybuilding competitions, that's not really the performance. The way I've always looked at it was in the grand scheme of what I usually refer to as just lifting, but I guess you could say bodybuilding. Honestly, it's probably, you could say the same thing. You're both trying to get bigger biceps and get stronger, and lifting and bodybuilding, you're basically right there before you get into like power lifting or whatever. But it's like every lift on its own individually is a performance. Like, it is a test. It is a gauge of, okay, man, do I want this shit or do I want to slack off? And if every time you kind of put yourself up there and you roll in, you got your pre-workout and you're, put your freaking straps on, you're getting in your kind of right headspace, and you perform, and you don't drop the ball, even when things aren't necessarily going your way. Maybe there's a group of 5 dudes all coincidentally using the exact machine that you want to use, and then you say, all right, well, I guess they're going to be on that one for a while, let's move on. And then as you're walking to the next one, they migrate to that one as well, and then you're like, okay, all right, I guess let's do something else. And then they say, oh, we don't like this one, they go back. Like, we all know the feeling, right? That's the test. Actually getting up on stage or doing I guess it's different with powerlifting. With powerlifting, the competition is the competition. But with general, almost endless goal seeking of just kind of, whether your thing is bodybuilding or overall just like fitness, maybe you want to be kind of that hybrid athlete, or you're running a 5-6 minute mile and you're squatting 405, or is it 5-minute mile and 405? That's like the gauge for success like that. Well, either way, whatever your thing is, my description of a winner, my description of someone who's really getting after it, it's not the dude who, did it per se. Obviously, I guess he is a winner, but it's the guy who's actually headed toward it, right? 1% progress is still progress. 0.1% progress is still progress. And then every so often, even a day is 0% progress. Well, shit, man, at least you didn't take a step back, right? So just try not to catch yourself losing ground, if I could say that, right? And the tests which you could lose ground on are, maybe I shouldn't hit a lift today. I'm kind of tired. You open the pantry and then you eat a bunch of shit when you know you're supposed to be dieting and counting your calories. Like, those are little tiny tests. They're not insanely consequential on their own, but when you add them up, right, it's like all the homework credit in a class where you didn't do any of the homework, and now you're like begging for extra points because, shit, man, homework ended up being 40% of your grade, right, or something like that. But yeah, nothing else to say. I think it's going to be a rather I can't even predict it. I can't exactly say how this back day will look, apart from the fact that I know at the end of it, I will be pumped. That's really the only guarantee that I can bring on my way in here now, and I think that's a pretty good guarantee. I don't feel bad knowing that will, barring some cataclysmic act, is going to go down. So let's just stop talking about it and get in there. All right, let's start simple here. Normally, I'm busting out either regular pull down, some sort of row, or honestly, that's usually it. But no, let's start with some heavy single arm pull downs. And these are a little, honestly, even during the feeler reps, I'm not trying to just stay right here and get only lat. I kind of like leaning back a little, have my elbow a little more flared up, and getting some mid back in here, right? I know it seems kind of silly, but it's like the difference from elbow down in this position to up here, even though you're still pulling, like the movement path hasn't changed much, I can feel much more mid-trap squeeze. And apart from, like, obviously having big enough traps so you kind of see them up by your neck, to really be able to squeeze them together and build that part right over the back of your spine, which, like, I can't even reach around back there to feel it. That gives you this added kind of funkiness. Like, whenever these guys hit a crazy lat spread and they've got that just freaking, like, strap of meat going up their middle of, like, both sides of their spine, that's mid-trap. And that's what I want to see, especially as I get leaner. So let's get started. All right. Ooh. Yeah. See. See. Okay. Ooh, all right, that might have been too heavy as a starter. I'll adjust for the next one. Gee. Yeah. Two. Gee. Ooh. Okay, yeah, the full stack's a little too much. Let's go from 250 to 210. And then run that back one more time. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Same thing, but let's grab 2 D handles and do a double arm set instead of single arm. All right, this will be very squeeze focused, not so pumpish as those first 2 sets started as. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, one more of those. That was really good. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Oh. Zigzag. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's do another pull down. Right over there in the corner will be good. The best part about this machine, I don't have to throw 5 plates on it. Honestly, even full strength, fresh, I don't think I could even do 5 plates here. So 2 will suffice. Plus I already did 4 good sets, so honestly 2 might even be too much. But yeah, this will be a good pull down, and we're probably getting close to the end. 2. Oh. See. Ta. Ta. Two. Two. Okay. Oh. One more of those. Two. Yeah. Two. Two. Tia. Tia. Okay. Okay. I think one more superset of something, then we can pose down. Very lat focused today. Here's the plan. Heavy chest supported rows, supersetted into that inclined bench, double D handle pull down. So this is 5 plates here, which on this machine is like, it's about standard. 5 plates in any kind of chest supported row like this. But after all the sets already, this will be a nutty pre-exhaust, and I can really burn out over there. So let's just get a good song playing, make this shit happen. Two. Yeah. Two. You. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see how we're looking. All right. Feels good with the cool morning wind. This is nice. But yeah, let's see how we're looking. So through the shirt, honestly, I'm already feeling like a freaking nut. Actually, let me make sure one more time that I'm in focus. Very important. There we go. But yeah, let's see how we're looking through the shirt. Ooh. All right. Oh my gosh. Oh man. It's getting easier to hold them. But yeah, we're still not to the point of dieted down yet where it's like sit here and pose for 30 minutes like nothing. But no, even just standing with minor flexing, some ab visuals, that's making me feel pretty good. So morning weight was 250 flat. Probably by next week should be around a 249. And then I forget the math, but let me think. So if I want to be like 227 by mid-February, let's just, yeah, it's 227 mid-February. So now is October 20-something. So one more week. November, December, January, February. So 16 weeks, 4 times, 16-ish, 240, 250 now. So 227, 20 pounds. Yeah, all right, I got to cook it a little faster than about a pound a week. But, yeah, that's about right. Especially now that I'm in the groove, 2 months in. Coming down from, I was like 265 peak bulk. Now, 60 days is what? 9 weeks in, down to 250. So 15 pounds in about 9 weeks. Yeah, 5 of those was just carbs and water, which is kind of cheating. But, we're on track. I want to be ready early this time. But let's get in the car. All right, that was almost without a doubt my nastiest Arnold pose ever. At least for this given level of leanness. So I'm not exactly peak lean yet. So if I did that exact same pose in 2 months or even a month, it'll look very different. But just in terms of, I don't know. That was good. And honestly, that makes sense. Today's back day was pretty lat focused. So I'm not sitting here feeling like my neck is tight because my traps are so, filled with blood. It's much more lat kind of width. And for me, in terms of my back, that's what I want. I would definitely prefer to spend more volume on pull downs than mid-back rows. I do think that for the most part it should be balanced 50-50, but I want my back to widen up. Honestly, in terms of its thickness, not so bad. Like it's all relative, of course, but I think thickness-wise, I'm ahead of the game compared to my width, right? So in terms of at least a visual sense, I want to look at myself and say, whoa, my lats just doubled in size side to side when I open them up versus when I close them, right? I want to have to turn on a freaking red light reversing beep when I do a lat spread, just in case I take a few steps back, because I won't be able to see around myself. Something along those lines. But right now, not a ton of substantial changes being made. I mean, really, it's, at least as far as I'm concerned, beyond minor changes, which it's just not going to happen. In a deficit, especially if you've been lifting for a while, I'm one to probably argue you're just about as big as you're going to get underneath. And then now all you're doing is revealing, that build by peeling off the body fat that's, on the outside. That's the change during a dieting phase. Now, when you're bulking up, right, your actual musculature, how big your lean tissue is, that's when it really does change. But it's always this give and take because, sure, you're getting bigger, but you're also getting a little bit softer. So it's this weird mind game where, a guy can be 270, but if you showed a picture of him next to a dude at 200, and the guy at 200 is cut up, diced, that 200-pound guy might look bigger, just, due to proportions. So I can certainly understand why the dysmorphic effect of like, oh, I don't want to bulk up, I don't want to lose my abs, and oh man, I don't want to diet down, dude. I don't want to be weak in the gym. Like, I understand the logic. I'm not sitting here like baffled that people sometimes get a little bit stuck in that plateaued state. It's very safe, right? If you're a 180-pound dude, you got abs, kinda. You're a 12% body fat. Like, you're not diced shredded, but you've got abs. When you hit arms, you have bicep veins and forearm veins. That's a pretty damn good spot to be in. Don't get me, just because I'm like trying to be freaking huge, I look back at pictures when I was 180 and I'm like, that was cool. Like, I don't look back and think, oh, what the fuck. Like, that's not my mindset. That's just what I'm trying to do. But there's a point where I think dieting intervention becomes necessary, and a lot of people who are stuck, who are not making substantial progress, we know why. You're not eating enough food, or you're not limiting your food, and you're just maybe saying you're dieting, but you're not really dieting. I mean, it's a tale as old as time, right? So what do? I start tracking your stuff, and you don't even have to track everything. I only counted my protein for the first few years of working out, because in my mind, well, protein equals muscle. That's my thought process. But even just starting with that, make sure you hit your protein every day. Honestly, that's it. That's all I can say to anybody who's not into calorie tracking. because that's phase 1, right? Phase 1 is you're counting all your protein every day. And then phase 2, well, all right, I'm already counting 1 macronutrient for the day. Maybe counting 2 isn't that hard. Let's throw carbs in there. Let's throw some fats in there. Ooh, let's get a calorie tracking app and really see what I'm doing. Guess what? Before you know it, you're already there. Right? Now you have a gauge of how many calories are in foods just by looking, and it's not 100% accurate, but I can, definitely within a error rate of like plus or minus 30%, guess the amount of calories, or not calories per se, but carbs, proteins, and fats in any given meal for the most part. Now, sure, you say 25 or 30% error up and down. That's pretty bad. That's not very accurate. But it's better than nothing, and it's just a practice thing. Like, you ever see the game show where, I don't know what country it's from. It's not in the States for sure. But it's essentially, this guy's given any kind of food, like they throw a pretzel down in front of him and reveal it, or it's like a baguette or something. And he's got to cut it perfectly in half so that each half weighs the same. And the closer you get, between you and the other guy, then you win, or some kind of prize or something. And my version of that is you get a big ass, like 8-pound Costco turkey breast, unwrap it, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then when you need a slice, right, 8 ounces of turkey is going to be just about 50 grams of protein. Right? I'm looking at it. I kind of level the knife right there. Throw it on the scale. Boom, 8 ounces. Boom, 7.9 ounces. Like I get pretty good at it just from repetitive action. So what I'm getting at is, as much of a chore as it is to track your stuff like that, it gets easier the more you do it, because then you get better at it. Right? Now, I do get it. It's not easy, but at least it's kind of simple. I mean, literally almost every food you can get your hands on, at least stateside, it says exactly how many calories are in everything. Proteins, carbs, and fats. Plus, like, specific fats. And then, fiber and everything else. That's where it kind of sucks for a lot of European countries, I think. Or even, maybe, I don't know, I've never been to Mexico. But the way that they label their calories is, like, kind of freaking weird. Because what they do is they don't say always, like, how many grams of carbs, fats, and proteins are in the entire bag of chips or something. They say how many grams of carbs, fats, and proteins are in 100 grams. And then it says how many grams the total bag weighs. So, like, you got to do extra math. So I guess if you're if you're over the pond, you've got a little bit of a trickier time. But at least stateside, like, it's right there. You don't even have to. You don't have to look it up. You don't have to. Now, some things you do, but look up. Go on calorieking.com or something like that. Look up. Okay, 8 ounces of flank steak cooked. How many calories? Right, things like that. So, it's not fun. It's not flashy, but I do promise it works. And it's it's kind of like I always like referencing this. Like that was it the first Indiana Jones movie? Where he's got to pick from like 1,000 chalices, and they're all extra fancy and gold, and if you pick the right one, you get something. Well, counting your calories, that's the scrappy wooden cup. It's not, nobody wants to do it. It's not cool. It doesn't look, honestly, people might even dog on you for it, especially if you're in a household that isn't like fitness friendly, because they're gonna they might take offense. Like, people will or it's like if you say you're not gonna drink, or you don't want to do something everybody else is doing, there's a little bit of that pushback of like, what, you think you're better than me? Right? And that sucks. That's where it's just another power that be that's going to kind of fight against you. But you got to stay strong in that situation and say, yeah, man, I'm not going to eat X. I'm not going to get 20 wings, buy one get one free on boneless wing night at B-Dubs. Right? Give me the salad and some unbreaded chicken breast, or whatever the healthiest option may be, right? And in the moment, not super fun, but guess what? Fast forward X months, you achieve your goal of getting like totally shredded. Well, guess what, right? Was it that bad to say that you were going to get the very plain meal versus the flashy, calorie heavy, fatty meal? You're not even going to remember it. I don't even really remember what I ate 2 days ago, right? Whether it was I don't even freaking know. You know, not even counting all the times of the last prep when I had to think like, oh man, I wish I could have eaten this, this, and this. You know, sure, in the moment I might have wanted to, but remembering it now, that's not the part I remember. The part I remember from all of winter of last year and going into spring was getting cut up more than I ever have, doing some competitions and then looking like a beast. You know, at least in a relative sense for me, because I had never been that lean before. Like, that's all I remember. I don't really remember the hard parts. I just remember the cool parts afterward. So, you know, take that anecdote as you will. Right? We're getting into New Year's. Now is the time for that kind of calorie intake change. And a lot of people are going to say they're going to do it. And maybe in the moment they mean it. Like, they really do want it. But there's got to be this balance of want versus don't want. And a lot of the times, actually probably across the board, I think everyone's wants are pretty similar. You know, I think everybody wants everything, right? I want to be able to shred a guitar like Jimi Hendrix. Do I want to try to practice for like 10,000 hours to do it? Well, not really. So I'm not going to do it. Like, that's the kind of back and forth. Like, I want to do this, and I don't want to do everything that goes along with doing it, right? So with getting jacked, and not even jacked, just getting lean, like getting a better build, and better, you know, I'm just meaning in terms of like objective progress of like getting more muscle mass, less body fat, better cardiovascular system. That's what I mean by better. You know, a lot of the times I think if everybody had a button, you know, or they had a genie and they could wish to get in any shape that they want, they'd all do it. I know I would do it. Everybody would. All right? But, you know, when you put that situation into reality where the button isn't just this one moment press, it's like, you know, hundreds of hours of cardio over the course of months, calorie tracking, not getting to, you know, satiate your instant dopamine response of eating a Ben & Jerry and just eating a bunch of trash food because it feels good in the moment. Well, then now the situation is very different. So that's where I think a lot of guys who really kill it, they have a weird, you know, kind of brain wiring where they turn that into motivation. The fact that no one else does it, or at least, you know, on average, not a lot of people do it, gets them more excited to do it because they know no one else is going to make it happen. So that's the flex, right? The flex is I'm doing something nobody else is willing to do, right? So I think I definitely get behind that mentality a good amount, especially with all the cardio that I'm probably going to do in the future over these next coming months. Like, sure, I might be tired. I might be running off of like, you know, low 200, maybe sub 200 gram of carb a day. I shouldn't have to go too much lower than 200 grams of carbs, I don't think. But even if I did, you know, even if it starts getting kind of tricky, the fact that I know out of 1,000 people, how many of them would fold? How many of them would just give up and wouldn't even try? That gets me hyped. That gets me amped, right? That gets me freaking going. So in that sense, you want to be part of that. You want to be in the minority, right? You want to be in the outliers who make it happen. And it doesn't have to be fitness, you know, it could be anything. I think you need two things, right, beyond just baseline security. You need to work out and be in like decent shape. I think everybody should be working out at least to a minimum degree. I'm not saying you have to be a bodybuilder, but I think everybody in the whole world should be generally fit. And I'm not saying you have to be 180 pound lean, but I'm just saying, you know, move around, be active, your body's not meant to just stay stagnant. You know, I think that if that happened, if everybody did, you know, it was just more active in general, you don't even have to work out per se, but we all know the benefits, then that'd be sweet. And then you also need something which you can really, you know, pour your mental energy into. Something you like, something you do for its own sake because you enjoy it. So for me, those two things overlap because working out obviously is that thing that's keeping me active, but it's also what I do because I really want to do it and I'm excited about it and I pour tons of energy and thought into it. So I'm kind of spoiled because those two things overlap, right? So if you don't have one or the other, or both, I'd certainly recommend trying to find it. And if you don't have it, that's not a problem. That just means you don't have it yet, right? So That's where that kind of tip might end, right? Because I can't I don't. If you have a goal that I've got no freaking idea about, well, then I can't say anything about it, right? That's for you to kind of uncover, and that's the fun part, man. Because that's the journey. That's you saying I'm a totally different guy now than I was 4 years ago, or now than I was a year ago, or any sort of thing like that. And that's the fun part, I think. So if you take away anything there, just make sure you get something fun that you want to work on. Right? And if you decide that whatever that thing is isn't for you, well then screw it, man. Right? Drop the dead weight and then pick something else. But yeah, I just don't want to be. I don't want to do the exact same thing and be in the exact same place 3 months from now, 8 months from now, 2 years from now. I want to be on the move, right? Kind of constantly evolving, at least in a little bit of a sense, right? Because then I can look back and I can just remember all the crazy shit that happened. I can already do that over the last couple years, and I can just not even just totally random thoughts, just yeah, that was pretty crazy that one time that all this and this happened. So if you're always on the move like that, then you'll have more of those little thoughts to kind of reminisce on. But now I'm getting deep into a ramble. It is a really good day out today. This is sweet. I went down to Mark's country club that his college plays at yesterday, and I walked the course with him. He was freaking killing it. So yeah, and yesterday it was just as nice as today. Actually, a little bit nicer. It's not very cloudy, but there's a couple clouds up there. But no, yesterday it was freaking cloudless. So I'm not one to be so picky about the weather, but I think it's hard to feel any gloom when the days are this nice. So I'm going to try to enjoy it before it gets gross. Probably, the seasons are so weird now. It might stay this sunny until December. Let's just freaking find out. But yeah, I'll see you for whatever lift goes down tomorrow. It will either be legs or shoulders and forearms, because I haven't thrown forearms in the mix for a little while. So one or the other. So if you've been itching for some shoulder and forearm activity, tomorrow might be your day. But yeah, no more rambling. That was a really good back day. Yeah, I'm happy. So I'll see you tomorrow.